You know that feeling when a beat drops? That irresistible groove you find in everything from jazz to rock to hip-hop? Well, what if I told you that the secret source code for all of it was born not from an explosion of sound, but from a deep, profound, and enforced silence? Today, we're going to uncover that origin story. So let's go back in time. I want you to picture the American South in the 1700s. It's this landscape where a brand new and incredibly complex culture is being created, but under the most brutal conditions imaginable. And right in the middle of all this, a single instrument, the drum, was literally outlawed. Now, you got to understand, this was not a noise complaint. This was a calculated move. The drum was a powerful tool for communication, a link to heritage. Banning that was an attempt to sever those lines, to cut people off from their past and from each other.
So that leaves us with a huge question, right? It's like a historical mystery. When the main instrument of a culture's rhythm is taken away, what happens to the beat? How does the very pulse of a people survive when its heart is silenced?
Well, the answer is pretty incredible. See, music is almost like a biological imperative for us humans. So when the physical drum was taken away, the rhythm didn't just disappear. No way. It had to find a new home. And it moved inward, right into the human body itself.
The solution they came up with was this amazing piece of cultural genius called the ring shout. And this wasn't just a simple substitute for drumming. Oh no. It was a complete spiritual technology, a way to keep an entire worldview alive through ritual.
It's so important to get what the ring shout was and what it wasn't. You can't just slap Western labels like singing or dancing on it. It was this whole spiritual experience. People would move in a counterclockwise circle, which is a direction deeply tied to West African beliefs about the cycle of life, death, and what comes after. And the whole thing had this beautiful cooperative structure. There were three main roles. Everyone had their part to play. First, you had the songster, who would sing the main story, the call. Then, and this is absolutely key, you had the stick man. This person used a big staff to pound out a heavy, driving rhythm on the floor, becoming the new drum. And finally, you had the bassers, who were the chorus, providing that powerful, energetic response. Now get this. A crucial rule of the shout was that your feet could never cross or leave the floor, because that would be considered dancing. So instead, it created this constant shuffling, scuffing sound, a gritty, percussive texture. And here's the mind-blowing part. The next time you hear a jazz drummer using brushes on a snare drum, you are hearing the ghost of that shuffle. That is its direct sonic ancestor.
So the ring shout solved the problem of the missing drum, for sure. But in the process, it did something even more revolutionary. It injected a completely new rhythmic idea into the American soundscape. Think about it. At the time, most European music was rhythmically, well, pretty square. The beat was always on the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very predictable. The ring shout was completely different. It was all about polyrhythm, multiple rhythms at once. The stick man is pounding out the main beat, but the hand claps and the shuffle are playing against it. That push and pull, that tension and release, that, my friends, is what we call groove.
And at the very heart of that groove is a specific rhythmic pattern. Music nerds call it the tresillo. It's a 3-3-2 pulse. You can feel it, right? Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. That little pattern is the absolute DNA of syncopation. It's the secret sauce that makes you want to move.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. The legendary Jelly Roll Morton, the guy who basically said he invented jazz, he called this exact feeling the Spanish tinge. And he was adamant about it. He insisted it was the single most essential ingredient. If your music didn't have it, it just wasn't jazz. Period.
Okay, so we have this powerful rhythmic engine forged in the privacy of plantations. But how did it break out? How did this circle open up and eventually become the sound of an entire nation? Well, that journey really starts in one particular place.
Let's just trace the path real quick. After the drum bands, the ring shout evolves throughout the early 1800s. Then you get to New Orleans, where enslaved people were allowed to gather on Sundays in a place called Congo Square. This was huge. It's where the private ritual became a public spectacle. It started mixing with new sounds, new instruments. And from there, that rhythmic DNA just spread like wildfire, eventually leading to the first official jazz recordings in 1917.
And the connection is so much deeper than just rhythm. It's the actual structure. The ring shout was literally the blueprint for jazz. The call and response between the songster and the group, that becomes the horns trading licks in a big band.
That moment in the shout they called the break, where one person steps into the middle to testify, that is the birth of the jazz solo. And the circle itself, it created a safe space for improvisation, a form that was somehow both tightly structured and completely free.
You know, by the time those first jazz records came out, a lot of people were already calling the ring shout primitive or old-fashioned. They weren't listening closely enough. It wasn't gone. It was everywhere, hiding in plain sight. Its echo is eternal.
You can still hear it so clearly today. That driving backbeat in rock and roll? That's the stickman's pulse, come on. The way a rapper's complex, offbeat flow dances around a drum machine? That's the syncopation born in the circle. The way a gospel choir builds in a powerful call and response? That is the shout, reaching for the heavens.
And this, really, is the whole point. The story of the ring shout proves that music is never, ever just entertainment. It is a vessel. It carries memory, it carries culture, it carries history inside its very bones. At its core, the ring shout was an act of incredible resilience. It was a creative, spiritual, powerful refusal to be silenced. It was a way of saying, you can take our drum, but the beat will always find a way.
And maybe the most powerful way to think about it is this. It was a living archive. For a people ripped from their homeland, the rhythm of the shout became a way to carry their ancestors, their stories, their entire identity across an ocean. The history was literally encoded in the beat itself.
So here's what I want you to do. The next time you put on a song, any song, I want you to listen a little deeper. Listen past the words. Try to hear the echoes of that circle. Listen for the relentless pulse of the stick man. Listen for the call and response between the songster and the bassers.
Because what this incredible story really teaches us is that rhythm isn't just some auditory thing. It's not just something that you hear with your ears. It's something you inhabit. It's a space you walk into, a history that you become a part of, whether you realize it or not.
The styles will always change, the instruments will evolve, but that fundamental pulse, born from pure resilience and spirit, it just keeps going. The circle remains unbroken.